Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by Misty Mountain Gaming and their Pathfinder and Starfinder launch party. I'll talk about that in just a few moments, but welcome aboard. Tonight is Tuesday, August 26, 2025. This is live show 1227. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out it's super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then we'll normally take a first look at a game, like we shall be tonight. Every once in a while, I might just tackle a topic related to our hobby. And every blue moon, I just share the news and just chew the fat with chat. But tonight, we're actually going to mark the beginning of the crowdfunding project for the new Cypher from Monte Cook Games with a first look at the Cypher System Rulebook from the aforementioned Monte Cook Games. You might be wondering, geez, Jeff, why are we going to look at the core rulebook? They're going to crowdfund a new edition. Well, not that much is changing. So this is still on sale. They just got a new print run of this out. And also keep in mind, this is one volume. The new edition is 2 books. So keep that in mind as well. Plus, you know what? I bet you there's a lot of people out there who are kind of curious about Cypher. And we're going to actually take a dive into the core rulebook for Cypher System. They'll get a far better feel for how the system works mechanically. So there is that. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, if you happen to be watching live, there is chat available. You do have to be a subscriber for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. It's how I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you check that box of being a subscriber for at least 60 minutes, you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my very best to respond. First out the gate tonight is Keith Ulu. Sean O'Donnell's with us, as is Semper Buffo, our good friend of the show, the Madman. Mike is with us, as is Kevin King. DB is popping on into chat. And we also have W Forge hanging with the gang. And I would not be surprised if the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is lurking in the shadows. She's one of our chat moderators alongside the Madman. So she is of the glittery Banhammer. So there is that. So you may have noticed I mentioned that we are sponsored this week by Misty Mountain Gaming. That is right. They're in the midst of their Pathfinder and Starfinder launch party celebration because there is a new line of officially licensed Paizo Inc. gear, which includes dice, backpacks, hats, notebook and pen sets, hoodies, t-shirts, and more. And it is a launch party because if you swing on over to mistymountaingaming.com prior to September 4th, you will score special pre-order pricing. Yes, it is the launch party pricing on the entire lineup. Everything. So there are separate Pathfinder and Starfinder lines. So Pathfinder or Starfinder, no matter your game, Misty Mountain Gaming's got the gear to take you there. All right. So, big thank you to this week's sponsor. If you want to get a little more detail about what is part of this new officially licensed lineup of Pathfinder and Starfinder clothing and gear, I shared a video. It's a short video. It's about, I think it's like 9 minutes long. Give it a peek. Give it a peek. All right, let's dive on into the news because early next month is going to see the highly anticipated release of the Starfinder 2nd Edition GM Core from Paizo Inc. Here's the lowdown. Unleash your imagination, creating new galaxies and tales with the Starfinder GM Core for Starfinder 2nd Edition. This comprehensive 264-page rulebook gives game masters everything they need to craft thrilling tales of adventure. From a single night scenario on the mean streets to complex epics spanning years. Within these pages, you'll find clear guidelines for creating new hazards and alien creatures, tools to design challenging, balanced encounters, and rules for rewarding characters for the dastardly challenges you array before them. Starfinder GM Core also contains rules for quick-to-run cinematic starship combat. Yes, a lot of people were waiting for that, as well as dynamic hacking rules. Starfinder GM Core is the second core rulebook for the Starfinder 2nd Edition RPG. Along with the Player Core and Alien Core, these books provide a new foundation for the future of tabletop gaming. Starfinder GM Core includes the rules needed to run a game of Starfinder, including guidelines for creating challenging encounters, determining success, and giving out rewards. Advice aimed at making you an incredible game master, along with tools to ensure you and everyone else at your table has a safe and enjoyable experience. Guidelines help you create your own content, from campaigns and adventures to hazards and monsters. Rule subsystems help you handle a wide array of game situations, including rules for chases, cinematic starship combat, research, hacking, infiltration, and more. There's a guide to the packed worlds and wider galaxy with a look at several important regions and an exploration of the wider cosmos. This 264-page hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $69.99. It's going to land in stores next week on September 3rd. On that date, you'll be able to grab just the PDF alone for $19.99. And keep in mind, I will be sharing my Paizo preview for the month of September. It should be a week from today. So I should have the package is supposed to have shipped. I do not have a tracking number as of yet, but we should have the package by next Tuesday. So, week from today, we'll be jumping on in. We will be doing the Paizo preview live, and it will include a look into the GM Core. Very nice. Very nice. If I remember correctly, I think there's a standalone Starfinder adventure as well. Maybe that's the month after. I don't recall. Steve from Roll for Combat is with us in chat. Says he got his. I guess Paizo doesn't love me as much as him. Well, that's a possibility. But I can guarantee there are a lot of other publishers who love me far more than they would love Steven from Roll for Combat. So I guess that probably makes up for it. So we see Steven from Roll for Combat is with us in chat, as is Pete Strakulich, and Chris Lundgren is popping on in. Mentions, I guess he and his family are all COVID-free now. Very nice. Very cool. So anyway, I am looking forward to checking the GM Core out. I liked the player core. I thought it was well done. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. I like Starfinder. I got a soft spot for Starfinder because there is a lot of player character options. Even right now, with only the player core out, as well as the deluxe adventure, Murder in Metal City, which gave you a new ancestry to utilize. So, yeah, pretty nice. Pretty cool. DB says, wow, love flexing on the gang tonight. Keith Lewis said they got their Starfighter Player Core and Galaxy Guide at Gen Con. Very cool. All right, let's move on to our next news piece because September is going to be a busy month, a very, very busy month, because it also sees the release of Warhammer 40,000 Roleplay Wrath and Glory Dark Tide Extraction. Here's the latest from Cubicle 7 Games. Listen up, rejects. Grendel needs you to go down into the snake stack and retrieve the airflow cogitator. But something nasty is brewing down there, so watch your backs. Explore the setting of Warhammer 40,000 Darktide as Inquisitor Grendel dispatches you to the Snake Stack, a lost region of Hive Tertium, to retrieve a lost Aerotech Cogitator. The ventilation systems of the Snake Stack breathe life into Tertium, but the depths of the hive are packed with traitor forces of the Mobian Sixth, cultists pledged to the plague god Nurgle, and strange lost sects of the Mechanicus. This 112-page book contains a 5-part adventure campaign for Wrath and Glory, descending aboard the lost cargo elevator E07 into the dark of Hive Tertium, or Tertium, I guess I should say. There is no R there. A guide to the people and places of the Slung, a ramshackle community hanging from the elevator. A guide to Hive Tertium and its history. A selection of Hive encounters for GMs to allow the agents to explore the wider Hive. Rewards of gear and status from the mysterious Inquisitor Grendel. Spelled differently than the Grendel you're probably thinking of. The 112-page hardcover with PDF is going to carry an MSRP of $34.99. It is arriving next month. The PDF is available right now over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. And I do have a package from Cubicle 7 Games in transit. It is supposed to arrive a week from today. I told you, September is going to be busy. Busy, busy, busy. And it contains 5 items from Cubicle 7 Games, including this. So we've got this. We've got a couple of, if I remember correctly, it's a couple of Warhammer Fantasy. So we got the Elf Player's Guide is one of the items. We've got the Inquisition Player and GM books for Imperius Maledictum. So yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff on the horizon. On our next news piece, you might recall last week I shared the Tiny Dungeon bundle, which featured the Tiny D6 titles from Gallant Knight Games. Well, there's also a second bundle, which is focused on that same system over at Bundle of Holding. And I've got the deets on the Tiny Zine bundle deal. Adventure. This new Tiny Zine bundle gathers PDFs of the complete 4-year run of Tiny Zine, the tabletop role-playing magazine from Gallant Knight Games that supports the streamlined minimalist Tiny D6 rule system. Collected in 4 compendium volumes, these 44 digital issues present more than 800 pages of new heritages, adventures, and optional rules for Tiny D6 games like Tiny Dungeon, Tiny Frontiers, Tiny Wastelands, Tiny Pirates, Tiny Living Dead, and more. Games being presented right now in that Tiny Dungeon mega bundle I just mentioned a moment before. For just $12.95, you'll get all 4 complete compilations in the Tiny Zine collection, which has a retail value of $70. as DRM-free PDFs, which include tiny zine compendiums from 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. These savings will run through September 8th. Interestingly enough, this says it's the entire run of Tiny Zine, but I thought Tiny Zine continued beyond issue 44. Am I cracking up? Has Stephen from Roll for Combat driven me to madness? I don't think so. Because I thought, I could have swore I've seen like issues 48 or 50, something like that, something along those lines. Very, very strange, very strange. Wallona's Cave, Robert Santon's spelling mistake, and Jeff Whitty art are all with us in chat. Chris Lengard says, buddy, his cocktails now watching Tiny Zine because it sounds like it is perfect for his size. Wallona's Cave said they created a different type of zine. It's a larger type, larger presentation. I don't think you mean font. So rather than like a zine size, it's probably A5 or maybe just the standard, what is it, 11 by 8.5? Oh, book size. There we go. Cool. Thank you, Ken. Like I said before, I think the Tiny D6 system, even though I only reviewed the second edition of Tiny Dungeon years and years ago, it was pretty cool. Very nice. Rules light, but not overly simplistic, I would say. As I mentioned, September is a busy, busy month. Not only for the gaming gang with all the goodies heading our way and all the goodies I've got to share with you already, but it's also bringing a lot of tabletop role-playing game goodness into stores. And the 2 volumes of Draw Steel, which are eagerly anticipated, will be arriving in September. Here's the skinny on book 1, Heroes, from MCDM Productions. A new game for a new age. Draw Steel is the breathtaking new action-oriented fantasy role-playing game from MCDM that's both fun to play and fun to run. Designed for 5 players, meant to be played using maps with a grid, Draw Steel is the result of thousands of hours of testing and polish. In Draw Steel, your character grows more powerful over the course of the battle, not less. Characters build heroic resources over the course of the battle, so battles get more interesting round by round. But Draw Steel is not only a game about epic battles against hideous monsters. The game also features robust, detailed rules for montages, cinematic sequences where the heroes work together, using their skills in imaginative ways to defeat a series of non-combat challenges, navigate a deadly swamp, escape a collapsing ruin. The montage rules make it easy for directors to design new montages and challenge their players in creative new ways outside of combat. Negotiations. Convincing an NPC to help you, or stop helping your enemy, can radically change any adventure. That's right. Parlay, ladies and gents. Make use of it. The rules for character creation in Draw Steel produce 3-dimensional characters, and with the negotiation rules, you can quickly make any NPC a fully realized character with their own motivations. All this and a ton of dope art. Dope art. Okay, Boomer. I thought that was kind of odd. Dope art, man. Kind of real, like cringy. It's like we're trying to be hip, but not. Anyway, I just thought that was goofy. All this from your friends over at MCDM. All the rules for making heroes and running combat in MCDM's new fantasy role-playing game is located in the Heroes book. Everything you need except the monsters, including dozens of character options. Even 2 heroes with the same class and subclass can be really different. Classic fantasy ancestries reimagined and brand new ancestries, each with several options to choose from. Even humans. Why should humans be boring? Treasures that level up with your hero. Downtime projects. Even the time between adventures is fun. Rules for negotiating with NPCs. Rules for cinematic montage tests. I know we already covered that. Dozens of gods and saints. Learn more about the worlds of Orden and the Timescape. This 402-page hardcover with PDF will carry an MSRP of $69.99. It is going to arrive in stores on September 15th. I believe you might have to order from MCDM Productions to get that PDF with the hardcover. I'm not sure if they're going to include like a quick response code or anything. Don't know. But you'll also be able to get the PDF, my assumption is, also on September 15th, for an MSRP of $39.99. I am curious about this. I know some people out there, maybe even in chat, backed this when it ran. I think it was a Kickstarter. They may have already gotten their PDFs. Maybe MCDM Productions is also fulfilling. I would hope so, because this is supposed to arrive in stores on September 15th. I don't know. We'll find out. The one thing that kind of throws me, though, is where it talks about, well, you know, the heroes get more powerful as combat continues. To me, that makes me feel that the focus of the game is combat, which, I mean, is fine. But it also makes me think that long, drawn-out combat might also be the case here. I don't know. Like I said, I have absolutely zero clue about this. And I don't have any relationship with MCDM Productions or Matt Colville whatsoever. So I would highly doubt we'll be seeing a review copy of this. So, although, like I said, I would be interested. I'd be very curious to check this out. Speaking of new role-playing games, the gang, except for Elliot, because Elliot couldn't make it out last night, rolled up their characters for the fantasy role-playing game that we discussed when we were running the episodes of Let's Design a Fantasy Role-Playing Game. So, kind of cool. They were interested. In fact, funny enough, my nephew Cameron's girlfriend is also going to be joining us. She actually played a couple of games with us last night. It's kind of cool. She normally doesn't. She usually just plays video games while we're playing board games or role-playing games and stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully I can keep her entertained. Mateo is with us, says, dope art. Hey, 1993 is calling. Flint Fireforge has joined us. They said they just bought Tiny Dungeon, wanted to see the zines. They like Tiny D6 as a system. Very cool. Jeff Woodyart says, love me some combat, but late game overpowered heroes with heaps of HP gets boring. Yeah, see, that's what I'm kind of... Yeah, I'm a little... No. Chris Leonard asks, when is that going to be available for you guys? Probably a long time from now, if ever. Because haven't even rolled out, adventures yet. Although, I mean, it's an OSR game with tweaks. So we can talk about it when I wrap up the news here in just a moment. Because now available in PDF is Traveler, the Fifth Frontier War, the ICS Papers. And I've got the latest from Mongoose Publishing. The Institute for Conflict Studies, or ICS, is an independent academic body whose works are ratified by several major imperial and non-imperial universities. It is widely believed that some ICS staff are pseudonyms used by academics employed by the major universities or serving military personnel who cannot write under their own names. The ICS publishes papers on all aspects of conflict, most recently on the Fifth Frontier War. The Fifth Frontier War appears to be following a similar pattern to most other conflicts of the modern era, which of course would be the modern traveler era, not our modern era. And once the conflict began, big picture decisions influenced smaller scale actions all across the theater of war, and to a lesser extent, vice versa. These ICS papers analyze the conditions of the Fifth Frontier War, considering system defense doctrine, orbital denial, orbital bombardment and defense, planetary warfare doctrine, contrasts, ground force organization and doctrine, infantry operations in the Fifth Frontier War, as well as urban warfare. Also included is a case study of the 4-5-18th Lift Infantry, the Duke of Regina's own Hussars. The 128-page PDF can be had right now for $14.99 over at DriveThruRPG. And I do not believe this is going to be a print edition. I think this is simply going to be a PDF. Jeff Woodyard says ICS is the private international school their kid goes to. Well, maybe they're writing up some of these articles. Don't know. Never know. Never know. Alrighty. So that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was talking about DriveThruRPG quite a bit. Don't forget, the gaming gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit DriveThruRPG, Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, Wargame Vault, any of those One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Very nice, very nice. If you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can actually support the outlet in a couple of more ways outside of using the DriveThruRPG affiliate link. First, you can make a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Oh, that's wonderful. It's weirdly humid again down here, even though it was cool out. I don't know. It's not swampy like it was last week that one night, but it is kind of humid, strangely enough. Anyway, the other way you could support the outlet is by becoming a monthly member of our Patreon. And I always like to say big thank you to our Patreon members on every live show. So big thanks to our $5 tier members, Gustavo Cavallo, Jason Lawman, Kubal, Kevin R. Smith, Sean O'Donnell, and Talzak. Our $10 tier members, Matt W., Dan Webb, Game Cat, Pete Strakulich, RPG Munch, Tessie Trekkie, and Tier 2 DM, as well as our $25 level tier members, Agile Monk and the Madman. Thank you very, very much. And I have had people ask, how do they find the Patreon? How do they find the link to PayPal? And I always say it's in the show notes. So some people don't know what the show notes are. The show notes are essentially the information that you'll see under a video where it'll say read more and you click on that. Those are the show notes. So if you ever click on that, you'll find there's a lot more stuff. And that's on any video, not just mine. But you'll see there's a lot more stuff. You'll find links to the company that we're maybe taking a first look at one of their games or one of their role-playing game books. A lot of times I'll have the PDF link over at DriveThruRPG for the game that we're looking at. Bunch of goodies, bunch of stuff. And of course, we do have a Discord server, absolutely free to join. And in the show notes, you will find an invite link to the server. So hang with the gang over on Discord. Sweet. Very nice. Okay. So I was talking about, and we're not going to dive too deep into this, but as I mentioned, I'm starting to play test the kind of OSR-ish fantasy role-playing game with the gang. And we're just doing it for fun. Just kind of kicking it around. But essentially, it is our standard of the, attributes, our strength, dexterity, intelligence, constitution, wisdom, and charisma. 3 to 18 range, and equal to or lower to succeed. And as a starting character, your max attribute is a 15. So then you'll also have, I'm starting off with just the 4 traditional classes. So we've got, the fighter or warrior, whatever you want to consider that. The cleric, the magic user, and the rogue or thief, whatever. And each has their core attributes. So like the fighter's core is strength. Magic user's core is intelligence. So they will also have focus. And the focus will equal their prime attribute. So everything uses a D4, especially starting off where they're, low level, first level characters. So everything's a D4. So if they're not a warrior, any sort of weapon they use is going to do 1d4 damage. Now, the way you change stuff is you spend points of focus. So as an example, the fighter. The fighter's focus is strength. So they can spend a point of focus to increase the damage they do from a hit. They can increase the number of opponents they can hit with, their attack. They can make their attack easier to succeed. And then, of course, they can perform like feats of strength, almost along the lines of, like the mighty deeds in Dungeon Crawl Classics. So their focus is equal to their attribute score of their prime attribute, and they only get to regenerate that once a day. So they have to be strategic on when they would use their focus points. I might do it if they do like a short rest, they can regain 1d4 focus points. So nothing where it's like, oh, yeah, well, hey, we had a combat time for our 8-hour rest. Oh, we had another combat? Well, better go back to sleep for 8 hours. That, rinse and repeat that you get with some role-playing games. I don't want that. So, yes. And of course, if you're a magic user, intelligence powers your spells, and you can make your spells more powerful. You can extend the range of your spell. You can extend the area of effect of a spell. All of these count as just a focus point. But here's the thing. Because they're low-level characters, they can only spend 1 focus point per turn, per combat round, whatever. So they can't sit there and be like, okay, well, so I'm a fighter, so I'm going to spend a focus point on bumping up my damage to another die. So we're going to have like a dice chain. So your D4 goes to the D6, D6 goes to D8, D8, D10, so forth, right? So you can only use 1 as a first level character. So as you go up in experience, you'll find ways to get more focus points. Maybe not necessarily just raising your attribute. So like a magic sword will have like an additional focus point that it gives you on a daily basis. Jefferson Romeo, wild guess, taking a stab, says, "Hey, what game are we talking about?" Just something I'm starting to play test with the gang. Chris Leonard says, "I like the idea of permanent wounds in an RPG, so the character must adapt." I'm bouncing around critical hits and stuff like that. Well, okay, so a 1 is a critical because, right, rolling low is good, rolling high is bad. So something else, like if you are a fighter, only fighters can put points into combat, like into like melee. Now, I might have rangers where a ranger is more kind of like an archer character where they can actually spend points in ranged combat. Once again, make it easier to hit, be able to hit more than one opponent, bump up the damage and things like that. So what I'm thinking is if you spend a point to make it easier to hit, alongside with your 20-sided die, you're going to roll a D4. You're going to subtract that D4 from the number you roll. And if it makes it a 1, then it's a critical hit. And critical hits bump up the dice chain twice. So just, and other characters can get critical hits. You don't have to be a warrior to get a critical hit. So as an example, a mage, maybe with a sling, doing a critical hit on a 1 ends up using a 1d8 instead of the 1d4. So yeah, just trying to create things that give additional options to the characters outside of just sitting there going, "Oh, okay, I roll my 20-sided die. Okay, so I got an 18. I'm guessing that's a hit. All right, 1d6. Didn't? All right. Okay, 3 points damage." We're like, okay, but the thing is, monsters in that, they will also get focus points that they can use. So, and you'll actually, as a game master, you'd use that kind of a little bit as a prompt. Like, oh, okay, so you can tell that the goblins are, the goblin you're fighting seems to be, really intently trying to, gauge your weakness or stuff like that. Whatever. All right, Age of Adventure is with us asking, is this a Japanese role-playing game? No, it's, like I said, it's just something I am kicking around, bouncing around. We rolled up some characters. I guess Elliot's going to be stuck being the magic user, which I don't think he's going to mind. Okay, so like I said, I promised I would share that. I would share that in a little more detail. So there is that. So once again, tonight, we're going to dive on in. We're going to be taking a look at the rulebook for the Cypher system from Monte Cook Games. And the backer kit just launched today. I'll have a news piece about it tomorrow for the new edition, which is Cypher. So you might be wondering, geez, Jeff, why are you going to take a look at this rule book? Well, number one, the changes aren't going to be radical. There are a few tweaks. I think the most important one is that I guess there's going to be like hit points or damage points as opposed to taking damage from your pools. So there is that. But I think a lot of people out there are probably very curious about Cypher. So we'll take a look at the core rulebook. This is a brand new print run that just came out. So something else I mentioned is this is a single volume. The new edition of Cypher is going to have 2 core books. So keep that in mind too. This is 400 and some pages. Yes. So that is what we're going to be diving on into. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
It's landed. Ideal's new astrobase has just landed. Look, the space lock is opening. And here comes the astronaut. He's being lowered from the astrobase into the remote-controlled scout car. The two space probes are being mounted for launching. The car is scanning the area. And there go the space probes. They're calling them back to the astrobase. Mission accomplished. Ideal's astrobase and Colonel Macaulay's space helmet are the greatest way to play outer space. You can scan the skies, launch deep space probes, fire rockets, destroy stray meteorites. Ideal's astrobase is at your favorite toy store. Get your Ideal astrobase today.
Boy, I'd give $1 million for a cup of Wilkins coffee.
Okay, Buster, pay up.
About to experience a 21st century nightmare. A voyage into an uncharted realm of futuristic fear. An expedition in search of the key to the unknown has uncovered a new form of life. More intelligent. More powerful. More frightening than anything ever encountered in space. Star Crystal.
No! Roger, look out!
Star Crystal, a new form of life and death.
I know you're sitting there wondering, how in the world is Jeff going to get away with sharing all of that from Alien just a moment ago without getting a copyright flag? I don't know. I'll do my best. What an awful movie. Yeah. I was like bringing you some real clunkers with the trailers, with the brief intermissions. Not always. Every once in a while, I will bust out, a cool movie, a good movie, but it's rare. It is really rare. All right. So tonight we are going to be diving on in and taking a first look at the Cypher System Rulebook from Monte Cook Games. This 448-page hardcover, obviously enough, is available now, although it was out of print up until about a month ago. So, like I said, this is a new print run of this core book. It carries an MSRP of $69.99. If you would like to grab just PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $22.99. Let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the Cypher System Rulebook from Monte Cook Games. A few things to mention before we jump on in. First of all, my friends over at Monte Cook Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this first look with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside this rule book. And then, of course, as I mentioned prior to the brief intermission, there is a new backer kit which launched today. I will share a news piece about it tomorrow for a new edition. It is called simply Cypher. So I take a guess that there are probably some folks out there who are curious about this system mechanically, and the new edition is not going to be radically different. In fact, I know, I guess as part of the backer kit project, they're going to do a special revamped bestiary for Cypher, but it's not going to end up being sold to the public because they just came out with the Cypher bestiary not long ago. And I guess it is going to be completely compatible with the new edition, except for one thing you have to change, which will take about 2 seconds for each entry. So there you go. There you go. All right. So let's dive on. Well, let's take a look at the back. Let's take a look at the back first. I'm not going to read everything, but any character, any campaign, if you can imagine it, the Cypher system makes it easy. The Cypher system is the critically acclaimed game engine that powers any campaign in any genre. Lauded for its elegance, ease of use, flexibility, and narrative focus, the Cypher system unleashes the creativity of game masters and players with intuitive character creation, fast-paced gameplay, and a uniquely GM-friendly design. GMs find the game easy to prep for and easy to run. It frees up your attention to focus on cool, creative ideas with minimal mechanical burden. Players love the concept-based character creation system and mechanics focused on narrative engagement. Easy to learn, but with all the depth and nuance you want, the Cypher system is powerful, sophisticated, and flexible. And it talks about the Cypher system here, but we're going to dive on in and take a peek. Kevin R. Smith says Cypher system monster entries tend to be mostly lore anyway. All right, Chris Lundgren's rocking on out. Good to see you once again. Roger Perdome is with us in chat. Welcome back, Roger. Good to see you. So first thing we're going to do is take a peek at the credits page, because quite a few people worked very hard to bring this to life, including a lot of artists. That's something I have noticed with the Monte Cook Games releases I've had an opportunity to start taking a peek at. Man, the artwork is second to none. Really good stuff. So we're going to have the Cypher system, characters, rules, genres, game mastering, and back matter with an index campaign design worksheet and character sheets. All right. First off, solid paper stock. So that is important. And it is a stitch binding too. Font's a little small. It's not too bad. I mean, I could make it out. For just a moment, we're talking directly to the game masters out there. Both players and GMs will use this book, but more than likely, the GM will look at it first. What you hold in your hands is a guidebook, how-to. You can't just sit down and start playing because the Cypher System Rulebook is not meant to be used that way. You have to put something of your own into it first. There is no setting or world here. The system is designed to help you portray any world or setting you can dream of. Think of this book as a chest of toys. You can pull out whatever you want and play with it however you want. You won't use everything in it, but at least not all at once. You'll use parts of it to build a game you want to play. Pull out some pieces and give them a try. Put back the ones that don't suit you and try different ones. Use some now and save others for your next game. You have all the freedom in the world. Many worlds, actually. Cypher System is not a rules-light role-playing game. It's important to keep that in mind, but it is not a very heavy role-playing game either. So you may have seen, I have shared first looks at the Cypher System starter set, which they are going to continue to sell. So I will have a review of that. I'm going to try to get a review of that out to you this week alongside the Labyrinth World Book from Cobalt Press, as well as the Carcosa Manifest or Call of Cthulhu, the Sutra of Pale Leaves. I'm almost done with that. The rules of the Cypher System are quite straightforward at their heart, as all of gameplay is based around a few core concepts. This chapter provides a brief explanation of how to play the game, and it's useful for learning the game. Once you understand the basic concepts, you'll likely want to reference Chapter 11, Bankruptcy, now. Rules of the game for more in-depth treatment. So we use a 20-sided die. We have difficulty. The difficulty number times 3 is what needs to be rolled equal to or higher than. And there are ways to actually bring the difficulty down. Now, keep in mind, remember, the difficulty is not the target number. So difficulty 3 requires standard a 9 or better to succeed. So if somebody is trained in something and they'll make it easier, that difficulty does come down. So here we've got some task difficulty examples here. A little information about combat, special roles. So there is the 19. Here, let me go back to it, which I had noticed. When you roll a natural 19, the 20-sided die shows a 19. As Agile Monk has just popped in and joined us. And the roll is a success. You also have a minor effect. In combat, a minor effect inflicts 3 additional points of damage with your attack. Or if you'd prefer a special result, you could decide instead that you knock the foe back, distract them, or something similar. When non-combat, a minor effect could mean that you perform the action with particular grace. For example, when jumping down from a ledge, you land smoothly on your feet. Or when trying to persuade someone, you convince them that you're smarter than you really are. In other words, you not only succeed, but also go a bit further. So when you roll a natural 20, then that's even better. Agile Monk says they've been here for about a half hour. Well, I don't see everybody when they pop in. When you roll a natural 20 and the roll is a success, you may also have a major effect. This is similar to a minor effect, but the results are more remarkable. In combat, a major effect inflicts 4 additional points of damage with your attack. But again, you can choose instead to introduce a dramatic event. So you also have experience points, which you spend experience points. You can spend experience points. I remember from the starter set, you can spend them to re-roll dice, but you don't want to spend too many experience points re-rolling dice because you also use experience points to improve your character. So we've got our character stats. We have 3 major attributes: might, speed, and intellect. Then we have our pools. And we have edge and effort. So as far as might, it defines how strong and durable your character is. Speed describes how fast and physically coordinated your character is. Intellect determines how smart, knowledgeable, and likable your character is. Each of the three stats have two components, pool and edge. Your pool represents your raw innate ability, and your edge represents knowing how to use what you have. A third element ties into this concept, effort. Your pool is the most basic measurement of a stat. Comparing the pools of two creatures will give you a general sense of which creature is superior in that stat. For example, a character who has a might pool of 16 is stronger in a basic sense than a character who has a might pool of 12. Most characters start with a pool of 9 to 12 in most stats. That's the average range. When your character is injured, sickened, or attacked, you temporarily lose points from one of your stat pools. The nature of the attack determines which pool loses points. For example, physical damage from a sword reduces your might pool. A poison that makes you clumsy reduces your speed pool. And a psionic blast reduces your intellect pool. So I believe that is what's going to be changing in the new edition of Cypher. Now, on Backer Kit, there is a video. It's about 7 minutes in length, so I will not be sharing it tomorrow with the news piece. But it is hosted by Monte Cook, and I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but I do believe he discusses the changes that are going to be made. And I guess the big focus is to make Cypher easier for people to just jump right into. Which the reality is, for players, I think Cypher and Cypher System are pretty easy to wrap your head around. As a game master, I think it's a little trickier because you've got the ciphers, which we'll actually get into a little bit. So what we have here with edge, although your pool is a basic measurement of a stat, your edge is also important. When something requires you to spend points from a stat pool, your edge for that stat reduces the cost. It also reduces the cost of applying effort to a roll. For example, let's say you have a mental blast ability and activating it costs 1 point from your intellect pool. Subtract your intellect edge from the activation cost, and the result is how many points you must spend to use the mental blast. If using your edge reduces the cost to 0, then you can use that ability for free. Your edge can be different for each stat. For example, you could have a might edge of 1, speed edge of 1, and an intellect edge of 0. You'll always have an edge in at least one stat. So it reduces the cost of spending points to do things that you need to spend points on to activate. Then we also have effort. When your character really needs to accomplish a task, you can apply effort. For a beginning character, applying effort requires spending 3 points from the stat pool appropriate to that action. But you also use your edge. Thus, if your character tries to dodge an attack and wants to increase the chance for success, you can apply effort by spending 3 points from your speed pool. Effort eases the task by 1 step. This is called applying 1 level of effort. You don't have to apply effort if you don't want to. If you choose to apply effort to a task, you must do it before you attempt the roll. You can't roll first and then decide to apply effort if you rolled poorly. Applying more effort can lower a task's difficulty further. Once again, remember, it's the difficulty it's lowering, not the target number, because the target number is the difficulty times 3. So, different character tiers. So tier 1 is a starting character. So types of characters. So we've got warriors, our different tiers of warriors. This is the adept, the speaker. So these are very broad as far as the archetypes for these characters. Kevin R. Smith says, yeah, remembering to play ciphers and to make GM intrusions are the hardest part of GMing the Cypher system. The rest of it is pretty easy. Right, because we have player intrusions and we have game master intrusions. Don't game master intrusions happen when a player rolls a 1? I seem to recall that. Just when I'm taking a peek at the starter set. Something else to keep in mind is Monte Cook has other role-playing games that are built off of the Cypher system. So as an example, you've got the Magnus Archives that is built off of Cypher. It's its own standalone role-playing game, but the mechanics which drive it are from Cypher. And I guess this new edition that they're looking to, like I keep wanting to say Kickstart, but it's not. It's on BackerKit, that they want to crowdfund, actually utilizes some of the mechanics from some of these other standalone games. But kind of cool. So here we've got descriptors. Your descriptor defines your character. It flavors everything you do. The differences between a charming explorer and a vicious explorer are considerable. The descriptor changes the way those characters go about every action. Your descriptor places your character in the situation, the first adventure which starts the campaign, and helps provide motivation. It is the adjective of the sentence, I am an adjective noun who verbs. That's pretty much how you break down all your characters, all your NPCs. Kevin King says they believe every player is supposed to be offered at least one intrusion per session, one GM intrusion, because they're worth experience points. So Kevin R. Smith says, yes, the PCs don't get XP for those intrusions. You're supposed to mess with the players every so often to give them appropriate XP. So an intrusion is just essentially an additional challenge, an additional wrinkle that is thrown in the player character's way. So we've got our different descriptors. Of course, the various different genre books that Monte Cook Games produces have all new descriptors. There's also the foci, the focuses. So this gives us kind of a breakdown of those descriptors, like lucky. You rely on chance and timely good luck to get you through many situations. When people say that someone was born under a lucky star, they mean you. When you try your hand at something new, no matter how unfamiliar the task is, as often as not, you find a measure of success. Even when disaster strikes, it's rarely as bad as it could be. More often, small things seem to go your way. You win contests, and you're often in the right place at the right time. Kind of surprised how small some of the artwork is. But that also means you are getting a lot of content in these 448 pages. So we've got customizing descriptors. Here we go. We've got our focus. Focus is what makes a character unique. No two player characters in a group should have the same focus. A focus gives a character benefits when they create their character and each time they ascend to the next tier. It's the verb of the sentence, I am an adjective noun who verbs. The character this chapter, I should say, contains nearly 100 sample foci, such as bears a halo of fire, would rather be reading, and pilots StarCraft. These foci can be chosen and used as presented by a player or by the GM who adds them to the list of available foci for the players in the next campaign. Not all foci are appropriate for every genre. Yes, you would not have pilots StarCraft in a, 1940s mystery noir. Agile said they're truly looking forward to the backer kit version. They went all in on it. And I have to say, nice to see, and I'll get into this more when we do the news piece tomorrow. The turnaround time on the backer kit, it's looking good. So the player book will be done in summer of next year. And then the Game Master book should be complete. And I think they're also planning on having that special backer kit only bestiary also complete in fall of next year. So about a year. That's pretty cool. So just kind of flipping through. Support, tank combat. Are we now combat? Oh, abilities. There we go. This chapter presents a vast catalog of more than 1,000 abilities a character can gain from their type, flavor, if any, and focus. They are sorted alphabetically by the ability's name. A character's type, flavor, and focus assign an appropriate tier to each ability. However, if you're creating a brand new focus or type, we provide a couple of additional tools. The first is a power grade for each ability, which tells you about how potent it is in relation to other abilities. Abilities appropriate for tiers 1 and 2 characters are called low tier abilities. Abilities appropriate for tiers 3 and 4 are called mid tier, and for tiers 5 and 6, high tier. So, attack skills, companions, craft. So, just as an example, companion gives you a follower, modifies a follower, or gives you an additional benefit when interacting with or near your follower. This category includes humanoid followers, beast companions, and temporary companions like summoned swarms, conjured spirits, and so on. So a low tier would be a basic follower, beast companion, control swarm, critter companion. Mid-tier, beast eyes, call swarm, expert follower. High tier, band of desperados, band of followers, call dead spirits. So you can see they're all broken down into just various categories here, like task, transform. So low tier, beast form. Mid tier, greater controlled change. High tier, colossal, gargantuan. And then we get into the actual abilities in alphabetical order. So abilities L, lab analysis, late inspiration, lead by inquiry, lead from the front, learned a few things, learning the path, legal intern. The N abilities, natural charisma, negotiate, network tap, nightmare. You pull a horrifying creature from your worst nightmare into the waking world and sick it on your foes. And it looks like we've got point costs, if they should cost points to activate. So if you want to do a fantasy game, of course, you can use Cypher System, or you can look at Monte Cook Games' own fantasy setting, which is Numenera, as well as Invisible Sun. I think Invisible Sun is more, isn't that urban fantasy? And I know they recently crowdfunded a new edition of Invisible Sun. So now we start getting into gear or equipment. Equipment in the Cypher system plays only a small role. It's far more important to focus on what you can do than on what you have. So sometimes it's important to know if you've got enough rope or what kind of gun your space pilot has at their hip. Currency and prices: dollars, pounds, euros, credits, gold pieces, Martian Soval beads, Corso moons and stars, bottle caps. A lot of different currencies might be used in your game, depending on the setting and the genre. You should use whatever you like. In the Cypher system rules, we talk in generalities rather than specifics, not unlike saying immediate or short distance rather than giving precise numbers. We talk about goods and services in terms of inexpensive, moderately priced, expensive, very expensive, or exorbitant. I like that. The GM can figure out what those things mean in their setting. In a fantasy setting, an inexpensive item might be 1 or 2 copper pennies, while an expensive item might require gold on the table. The exact amount can vary, and in many campaigns, the exact amount will matter. The GM will develop a detailed price list for their setting, and the players will track their money on their character sheets to determine what they can afford, often ignoring the terms inexpensive, moderately priced, and so on. But some GMs might want to keep things simple and use only the general terms. Yeah, looking at me. Yes. Agile Monk with the super chat. $4.99. Said, Jeff talking to Chuck at Trollord Games and catching up on some printing plans. He and TLG were thrilled with your mentions and the reconnect. Hopefully, because it was funny because Chuck was supposed to send me some codes for some review items, including their starter set. And I have not gotten the email. So hopefully we see that, because I know a lot of you are very curious about the Castles and Crusades starter set from Trollord Games. Anyway, as I was saying, with currency and that, I don't need my characters to count every, copper piece, silver piece. Just like, as an example, like fantasy role-playing games, I don't get into the whole copper, silver, gold, electrum, platinum, and so on. I just copper and gold. And gold is usually like a big deal, a really big deal. So I'll either go with like copper or silver. And then, gold is something that most farmers and things like that could never imagine even seeing a gold coin. So we got our rules of the game. So this is where we're going to get into more detail about our difficulties with our rules. Something else important to keep in mind: if I remember correctly, the game master does not roll dice. The rolls are always the players. But now, as you can see, this is going to get us into far more detail. As I had mentioned when we first started taking a peek inside the rule book, that Cypher and Cypher System are not rules light. Easy for players to wrap their heads around, a little more complex for game masters, which is, let's be honest, it's always the case. Kevin R. Smith says, that's correct. Only players roll dice. Is this downtime stuff? I think this is. Take a look. Oh, character arcs. Oh, okay. Nice. This looks like that's more kind of GM facing. We get into genres. All right, sweet. So we have fantasy, modern, science fiction, horror, romance. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run some telenova. Or is it telenovela? Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Superheroes, post-apocalyptic, fairy tale, and historical. Just off the top of my head, I would think that Cypher System would probably work pretty well for superhero role-playing games. Because one of the big problems that you encounter with superhero role-playing games, and to be honest, I really haven't taken a look too deep into any recently outside of the playtest they did for the Marvel Multiverse and the Heroes, which powers champions. I think superhero role-playing games are tough to pull off, especially if you're trying to go with more of like a traditional sort of role-playing game setup because of all the different powers, all the different power levels. That's why a lot of people still swear by Phase Rip, the old Marvel superheroes role-playing game. So here we got science fiction. Of course, Monte Cook Games recently released Neon Rain, which is their cyberpunk genre book. We will be taking a look at that in the not too distant future. I might be sharing some standalone first look videos because we're getting a little bit of a backup here with stuff arriving. Like I said, supposedly a week from today, I've got 5 Cubicle 7 books arriving. I've already got, I think, 5 or 6 items coming from Exalted Funeral that are already in transit. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Let's see what we have about superheroes. Like horror, the superhero genre is really a subset of the modern genre with extensive special considerations. In many ways, it might appear that the Cypher system is a strange fit for superheroes. See, weirdly enough, I thought maybe it would be a pretty good fit. But if you think about it, the folk guy like bears a halo of fire and wears a sheen of ice. The Cypher system makes all genres a little bit superhero-ish. Character sentences might look like the following. Firebrand is a brash energy projector, an adept, who bears a halo of fire. King Brick is a tough warrior who performs feats of strength. Dimensionar is a mystical warlock who exists partially out of phase. Dark Ronin is a mysterious crime fighter who solves mysteries. Speedburst is a fast crime fighter who moves like the wind. So it talks about creating a superhero setting. Suggested folk guy for a superhero game. There is a superhero book, genre book, I'm pretty sure, that's fairly recent. All right, so Agile Monk says it's their understanding the Cypher system isn't strictly inherited within Invisible Sun. It isn't, and that's kind of weird. I've never had an opportunity to look at Invisible Sun. When I interviewed Monte Cook a few years back, that was when they were getting ready to kickstart Invisible Sun. So they actually had a mock-up of what the big black cube looked like and all the stuff that was in it, all the cards. But as far as the game itself, I've seen some artwork from it. That's about it. All right, so we've got our creatures. So this is going to be a little bit of a bestiary. This chapter describes many common and uncommon creatures the characters might meet and fight in a Cypher system game and gives their stats. The variety of creatures that populate the possible settings and genres is so great that this chapter only scratches the surface. It does, however, provide examples of kinds of inhabitants, bestial and civilized, living and undead, organic and inorganic, so that you can easily extrapolate and create your own. So we have levels. So they are a difficulty level, basically. So it's determined the target number a PC must reach to attack or defend against the opponent. In each entry, the difficulty number for the creature or NPC is listed in parentheses after its level. Okay. So let's see. So we got the Abomination. So it's giving us a breakdown here. I'm looking, where is its level? I see its armor. I see its modifications. I see combat. That's kind of weird. Oh, it's right there. Duh, up there. So yeah, so right. So it's level 5, so it's a 15. There you go. Agile Monk says their Monte Cook shelves are a smattering of confusion. The Chimera, the Demigod, a Dragon, a Jinn or Genie, Fallen Angel, Enthraller, Giant Spider, the Goblin, who is a 1. Goblins are wicked, grasping, and perversely resourceful. Usually no larger than children, they can seem like pesky rabble, but that illusion hides something altogether more cunning. I've got a cunning plan, me lord. Tribe members work together to accomplish their goals of murder, kidnapping, and theft. Do we have any kobolds? Oh, there we go. Killer Clown. Killing White Light. Mechanical Soldier. That's kind of wild. So it's got kind of the, it's not a pith helmet. Just like the old redcoats. Well, 1850s, 1870s. Oh, this is Mr. Potato Head? I gotta say, I think this is cool. I really do. I think this is really cool. Some super villains. Dr. Dread. I think I mentioned I finally had an opportunity to see Superman. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I thought the actor who played Superman was fine. So, I got to be honest. I thought the Supergirl extra scene after the credits was kind of stupid, but I did like the fact that it was more of a comic book kind of movie as opposed to, it wasn't like the Snyderverse, right? Although it's kind of weird. I guess they're looking to use Robert Pattinson's Batman with this Superman. Kind of odd. And of course, I watched the first episode of the new season of Peacemaker. I was like, okay, did they really need to go with that orgy thing? And I get it. I understand. Part of Peacemaker is like, all right, how much can we shock you? Kind of like The Boys, which I like The Boys. I've read the comics, actually, and the comics are like, some stuff in the comics is like way crazier than in the show. So I think these are abilities for the various different, oh no, those are ciphers. That's what it is, right? I'm chatting. So here we go. Let's discuss the ciphers here because this throws people off. Ciphers are one-use abilities that characters gain over the course of play. They have cool powers that can heal, make attacks, ease or hinder task rolls, or in a more supernatural and extreme example, produce effects such as nullifying gravity or turning something invisible. Most ciphers aren't physical objects, just something useful that happens right when you need it. They may be a burst of insight that allows a character to make a perfectly executed attack, a lucky guess when using a computer terminal, a coincidental distraction that gives you an advantage against an NPC, or a supernatural entity that makes things work out in your favor. In some games, ciphers come in the form of items like magic potions or bits of alien technology. Ciphers that don't have a physical form are called subtle ciphers. Ciphers that have a physical form are called manifest ciphers. Regardless of their form, ciphers are single-use effects and are always consumed when used. Unless a cipher's description says otherwise, it works only for the character who activates it. For example, PC can't use an enduring shield cipher on a friend. Ciphers are a game mechanic designed for frequent discovery and use. PCs can only have a small number of ciphers at any given time, and since they're always finding more, they're encouraged to use them at a steady pace. See, I'll be the first to say the ciphers throw me off. And it's mainly because I haven't read the starter set, and this is the first time we're taking a peek through this. So yes, the ciphers kind of throw me off because I think to myself, okay, like in a fantasy role-playing game, like magic items and things like that, like magical weapons. So would a magical weapon be a cipher? Because a magical weapon isn't just a one use. So it kind of throws me off. So some examples: disrupting, farsight, fireproofing, force field, gas bomb, machine control, mind meld, metal death, perfect memory, spy, telepathy, tissue regeneration. All right, so now we get into some Game Master facing stuff with running Cypher, or I should say Cypher System, because this isn't the new Cypher. Kevin R. Smith says, no, weapons are artifacts. Potions and scrolls are ciphers. Magic weapons are artifacts. Okay. Yeah, see, I was kind of curious. Like I said, once again, I have an idea about the Cypher System because I reviewed the first edition when it came out years and years ago, but it's been so long. I don't recall the particulars of it. And of course, that was a different core rule book too. So this is more of the Game Master section here. And we get an example of play. Then we'll get into our index, as well as our campaign design worksheet and our character sheets. All right. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So that is a peek inside the current print run of the Cypher System Rulebook from Monte Cook Games. I will have a review of this in the not too distant future. I will have a review of the Cypher System starter set. Hopefully this weekend, I'll have that up. All righty then. So let's swing on over to the other camera. So busy yapping, my mouse fell asleep. And I'm like, all right, come on, switch scenes. Come on, switch to the other camera. What's going on here? So sweet, pretty cool. I like the artwork for Monte Cook Games. One thing I will tell you I've noticed is the more recent books, the artwork is presented much larger. So, which is cool because, as I already pointed out, I don't think anybody beats Monte Cook Games with artwork. Now, I'm not saying that Monte Cook Games has the best gaming artwork out there. I'm just saying I don't think anybody tops it. So, Maxpocalypse is popping on in. Good to see you once again. All right. So that is a first look at the Cypher System Rulebook from Monte Cook Games. Once again, it is available now. The 448-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $69.99. If you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $22.99. That is something else I've also noticed about Monte Cook Games is that their PDF pricing isn't the traditional half of the MSRP for the physical book. It's less than that. So you would think standard pricing would be $34.99 as far as the PDF. No, $22.99. Very nice. Alrighty. That is it for this time out. So what's going on the rest of the week? So tomorrow we're going to dive on in. We are going to take a look at the Last Caravan from MythWorks. Took me a second. I was like, MythWorks. Yeah, that's right. So we are going to be taking a peek at this. On Thursday's show, we're actually going to dive on in and take a look at the Necromancer card game from Cobalt Press. I don't have it down here for some strange reason. I thought I had it, and just before I started streaming, I'm like, wait a second. I thought I had the box down here. I guess not. So, of course, once again, a week from today should be our Paizo preview. That is going to be when we take a look at the GM core for the second edition of Starfinder, as well as the deluxe adventure for Pathfinder. What is it? Death of Frogs? Something of Frogs. Night of Frogs? Maybe it is Night of Frogs. But it's it's supposed to be like Pathfinder game night. So I suppose it's going to be an adventure that's designed to be played in a single session. Simply my guess. We will find out. There are other goodies coming from Paizo Inc. as well. And then next week, got to point out, September is going to be Small Publisher Month with the Gaming Gang. So we are going to share some additional love for smaller publishers out there. We're always sharing news, always sharing first looks, always sharing video reviews of smaller independent publishers. Just going to do a little more of it than usual next month. And next week, we're going to take a look at the West Marches campaign book. I know we shared news about this, so I've got a copy of it. And keep in mind, I guess Critical Role is doing a bit of a West Marches campaign for their new season. I know a lot of people were very, very surprised that Critical Role is going to use Dungeons and Dragons and not Daggerheart for their new season. I was not one of them. I could have told you that a long time ago. It was not going to be Daggerheart. Don't know what to tell you. Hey, I'm not knocking Daggerheart whatsoever. Sammy did a review. She shared her review of it. I have yet to actually have an opportunity to take a peek at it, but I thought, yeah, they're going to stick with D&D. Once again, I think Daggerheart might be fine, might be a blast. People might really like it, but it's like just about everything else out there that people talk about. Oh, it's going to knock D&D off of its throne. And it's like, no. That's like, no. Max Apocalypse says, I thought for sure they'd use the Jenga game. Hey, well, yeah, that's possible. Kevin R. Smith says they've run a couple of one-shots of Numenera in The Strange and read enough Cypher rulebooks that they've memorized some stuff. Sweet. Agile Monk says, I'll give you 12 million reasons why they did. Ka-ching. I know. Yeah, what can I tell you? All right, so that is it for this time out. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, tip of the cap to you, because not only do you keep me company, you're also keeping each other company while I'm sharing the news or unboxing a game or flipping through a book. But I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. In fact, I just got a notification, I guess this took place last week, that the Gaming Gang channel has passed 2.5 million views. Wow. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. We got that last 500,000 relatively quickly. So pretty nice. I was kind of blown away by that. Anywho, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it's not only going to let you know when I share videos such as this episode of The Dispatch, but also let you know when I bring you other videos, such as my recent review of Rivers of London in Liberty's Shadow from Paizo Inc. Good stuff there. Good stuff, Maynard. Anywho, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, I certainly hope each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.